The word relate itself, relatability, relating. Many parents believe that they have to provide the quintessential roti kapda makan, how the child would learn industry versus inferiority at a much later stage, and going through all of those stages. Also the folklore parenting or grandmother parenting or the sociologically prevalent parenting teaches parents to be providers. I think let's divide this for everybody into three distinctive parts: age appropriate behaviors, age appropriate actions, age appropriate working, etc. Positive strokes in general, very important in the relationship. That guru is then helping the child to be secure. Irrespective of everything, one myth that still continues in almost all of parenting is fear is equal to respect. They are literally relegating that whole higher order piece of work of bringing in regulations and all of that stuff to the child. The child needs to do very broad aspects. Prudence in making choices, especially when it comes to material choices in life.
Hello friends, and welcome to Parent Shift, a place where we speak about conscious parenting. I've been discussing various aspects of what we have been discussing on parenting, about your relationship with parenting, etc., with some of my colleagues. And Aarti, who's joined me today, who's also a psychologist and works extensively in the counseling space, and she and I partner on various projects. We have been discussing this subject extensively, especially some of the questions. And as I welcome Aarti to this conversation, this podcast, which we are presenting to you today, Aarti has spent some time stitching together some of your questions, your inquiries, some of the discussions that we had with parents at Parent Shift into a very interesting topic. I won't spill the beans too much on it. I welcome my colleague Aarti to introduce herself and speak a little bit about the topic, and then we will continue this conversation for all of you. Aarti, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dada, and welcome you to Parentship. It's a complete honor and privilege to share this space with you and to host this podcast today on parenting. And as I was reading the responses, there are some wonderful questions that have come to us, and also something that we keep thinking about amongst our peers. And the topic is the relationship between the parent and the child. And as we all know, it's the earliest and the most long lasting relationship that we share in our life. It has a huge impact, huge influence on us as children and as parents. As one of the theories says, that it is a two-dimensional relationship where both influence each other. And one of the major influences is about how do we see the world. So the first question that comes to our mind is, why do we say that the parent-child relationship defines life?
Mm, 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 mm. Absolutely. It's a very interesting conversation. I think, isn't it foundational also, Aarti? Very, very core
Absolutely.
to it. There are so many things that we have heard about parenting where they say that it takes a village to raise a child. A child is a product of what we do with it. And who I consider to be my guru in the space of psychology, Eric Berne, says this so beautifully, that all children are born princes and princesses. It's the world, and especially parents, who make them frogs and orgs. Otherwise, children are so pure. And so many. And in our own Shastras, it is said, Pitra Devo Bhava, Matri Devo Bhava, and that equivalence of the mother and father being the divine presence in the child's life, not just about bringing that child to life, but also to give it the divinity in life that the child can have. So many views to look at it. So yes, it is indeed life defining. I think I will only stick to this one fundamental thing, that what the child is and who the world experiences the child to be is like a product. And that product is something that the parents shape literally from the time that the child is conceived. So to my mind, the the biological originators of that child, which is the parents, and then whatever is the parenting that the child receives in the first 8-10 years, are the fundamentals of that child. And if I dare to compare that child with a product, the very architecture of that child and what the world experiences the child to be literally comes from here. Somebody once said something so beautiful that we really don't change too far away from the core. We only expose our core more and more. And it's
Wow.
just layers that we add to the core. So where does that core come from? I think it comes from the parents. So to my mind, that fundamental relation of the parent and the child is where the core of a child gets designed. Once the core is there, it is there. You can add layers to it, but what happens deep down on the inside, just like the DNA, I would call this the samskara core, or the charitra, as we describe, which the parent-child relationship creates. But what's on your mind? How do you see this?
Absolutely. I think I completely agree with you. And our, Freud has talked about it, and attachment theory talks about it. And it really, really defines
Hmm,
who you
hmm,
become later in life. So I'm with you on that. But we've been talking about relationship, bond,
hmm,
attachment. What does relationship really mean in the parenting?
hmm. Very powerful question, I think. Very powerful. If we were to take that word and start breaking it down, and sometimes we as psychologists have that conversation that uh, what is relationship, and the word relate itself, relatability, relating, the ability to relate. If we were to toss those words around, I think for parents it becomes far more easy. That relationship of the parent and child is deep down inside how the child really learns how to relate to itself and the world. That's where the power of that relationship really essentially comes. And this is where some things that many of us professionals see in this world, of which one of the most prominent phenomena is many parents believe that they have to provide the quintessential roti kapda makan and additives to the child. So, quote unquote, that provider is how naturally our society, especially our Indian society and a lot of Southeast Asian societies, uh, have modulated the parent-child relationship. Provide this, provide that, do this, do that, etc., etc., etc. And as we provide, then the other thing that essentially comes up is demand, because when you give, you also want something in return. So pretty much the natural, uh, instinctive, sociological, folklore parenting is mostly about providing and demanding from the child. Whereas if you really see all the beautiful pieces of work that have been done, whether in psychology or from sociology or social psychology or behavioral economics, or you look at our shastras and where the concept of charitra, the concept of the various tattvas, and how the prakriti itself of a human being is shaped. And if you were to look at it from deep down inside of how the gunas of an individual get shaped, providing and demanding is not going to be enough. It's just one small part of it. The humanness in a child will come up when that connection happens. So if you ask me what should a relationship be, it's connection. Because like I said, relationship, to relate, relatability, ability to relate, all of those things will be great when the child really starts seeing its connection with the parent as meaningful. And if we even look at Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages of development, and if we see how the child were to learn the various virtues of life, how the child, fights between trust versus mistrust, or how the child, would learn industry versus inferiority at a much later stage. And, going through all of those stages also, if we see, so where does a child really learn trusting or having that faith? Where does a child learn how to not feel guilty, but to really explore life and go deep? Where does the child really learn the value of effort and learning? All of that has to come from the connection with the parent. If that connection is not there, then the parent essentially is not able to shape the child in a way that is called age appropriate. And the challenge is that age appropriateness. And this is something, again, that a lot of parents miss out on. My child is 2.5, 3. What is age appropriate for the child? What is age appropriate for me to do with the child? My child is now 5 to 8. What is age appropriate now for me? Okay? And an example there is the 2.5, 3-year-old is crying. The 6, 7, 8-year-old could also be crying. Crying at the 2.5, 3 could mean something very different as compared to what crying at a 5 to 7 could mean. What do I say? What should be my choice of words? How do I give positive strokes to either of these children? Very different. So that connection, that relatability, that's going to matter. And if you don't understand what is the age appropriate behavior of your child, what should be the age appropriate behavior, what should be the age appropriate parenting, then what you're going to do is literally folklore parenting, right? Like many times the child cries and you offer it some sort of a lollipop. I mean, sometimes it's literally a lollipop. Sometimes it's, oh, let's watch TV. And these days it's like the child is cranky too much. You'll put on a cartoon to try and cheer the child up, or say, okay, why don't you go play on your iPad for some time, or why don't you go play with your friends? I think the play with friends is very little these days. It's mostly go play on the iPad or play on the phone or some of those things. And then what are you doing? You don't know how to handle the child in that moment. You're moving you're literally outsourcing the parenting to that device or that tool that you're using. And again, you've lost a great chance to shape your child. So to sum that answer up for you, the folklore parenting or grandmother parenting or the sociologically prevalent parenting teaches parents to be providers and then start demanding. Whereas if you really actually do the scientific way of parenting, it is to connect with the child and to do age appropriate parenting for today and to prepare the child for the future. That's where it is. What about you? Would you like to add something to that from your own observation and your work with some of the parents? I know we've been speaking about this.
Yeah. It was so beautiful to hear this word connection, and it truly is the essence of the bond between the parent
Yeah.
and the child. And it also, I think, a couple of words I would like to add was also the sync, the alignment you have with your child,
Oh,
the
yeah.
presence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You brought a beautiful word, the sync. Yeah. And that sort of reminds me of something that you and I keep saying to parents, which is that both the parents need to be in sync in the messaging that they do to the child. Because if you don't do that, the child is not going to record appropriately the parental instructions. It's going to, in its mind, toss one against the other and then discard it when it starts seeing controversy. So both parents also have to be in sync and speak the same language, yeah, and the same age appropriate
Absolutely.
language. Beautiful. Over to you.
Absolutely. So, holding this as a central point, the connection, the
Hmm,
sync, the
hmm,
alignment, can you help us understand how does this connection and relationship influence the
uh,
child as to how they
hmm,
become in the future, later in life?
hmm, hmm, hmm. Beautiful. Um, I think let's divide this for everybody into three distinctive parts. Okay.
Okay.
The first part is really the biological and physiological development itself of the child.
Hmm.
The parent is the fundamental source of positive strokes for the child. And when we say positive strokes here, it can be a word of appreciation here, a lovingly called name here. And mind it, I'm not talking about baby talk and all that cranky language that we tend to speak, with the child, or the whimsicalness in the choice of words and language. No, I'm talking about speaking plain, clear, simple language in that, lovingly addressing the child, asking a question like a question, making a statement when required. So some of those things are very important in relating to the child. Those strokes, providing what the child needs, ensuring that the child's health is taken care of, ensuring that the child is attended to when it comes to academic requirements or the social embarrassment if it is facing, then how do you handle it? So strokes can come in many ways. A common word of that is paying attention appropriately. Appropriately is very important. Otherwise, the positive strokes become negatively. You pay attention, but you're doing it to scold, etc. Those become negative strokes. So I think the
Yeah.
first and foremost is, in the relationship, there need to be positive strokes. And those positive strokes will then fine tune how the child's physiological and mental health is. The brain's development, the brain's ability to process emotions, the brain's ability to focus on the right things, etc. So that's the first thing that parents need to take care of. The second thing that the parents need to take care of is the behavioral shaping of the child. What does the child understand about age appropriate behaviors, age appropriate actions, age appropriate working, etc. And then focus on teaching the child, how do I cope? How do I cope with friends? How do I cope with studies, etc. So providing positive strokes leading to behavioral development of the child, those are two things that obviously the parent needs to absolutely focus on in the relationship. The third thing then is going beyond that, dealing with the world, dealing with its own self, into possibly higher order elements like values, virtues, concept of God, concept of religion, concept of culture, concept of rituals. How to then provide an anchoring to the child in the overall tradition of life, right? So summing that up, positive strokes in general, very important in the relationship. Second is being the primary teacher of behavior and dealing with the world and teaching the child how to be, as I commonly say, how to be likable and how to be successful in this world. And the third thing is giving it that orientation to culture, religion, spiritual life, etc. Now, for a moment, what's happening in the world today is, number one, parents are too busy. So more often than not, there are no sufficient positive strokes. Along with that, there is a lot of negative strokes, because obviously the parent going through their notion of stress and life and corporate careers or whatever career that they have, then some of that gets offloaded onto the child. So negative strokes are happening there, or insufficient stroking is there. So there is a lot of hunger in the child for attention. The second thing, many adults themselves today, you are just babies in adults' bodies. They don't know how to deal with this world, how to deal with the challenges of the world. So they don't have those success-oriented behaviors themselves. What will they teach to the child? The third thing that happens is, over this last 70, 80, 100 years, especially in our own Bharat, there is a lot of people who have gone away from actual core customs and traditions because they were taught to shame themselves and have guilt over their customs, etc. So many of them have gone away, especially in the Hindu community, from original traditions and the meaning of things like special occasions, festivals, vratas, etc., puja. So some of that is again missing in the world. So since you asked me what does relationship mean, I defined those three pillars. And also I'm helping understand where are the deficits come up. And we've often had conversations like these with some of the parents. So this is important for every parent to capture and start working with.
Yeah. Okay. I'm taking away this thought that parents are not just providers, not just nurturers, but they're
Hmm.
also models and teachers and the
Yeah.
first guru, like you keep saying, they are the first gurus of a child's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. And, that guru is then helping the child to be secure and not be anxious, to understand how to engage and win and get along and find meaning in life, not to be avoidant and disorganized in life, right? Like discipline. very big issue with youngsters these days. Much of that is coming from indisciplined households. Yeah. And people then get around to blaming Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So no point of blaming future generations. All future generations are behaving the way they are because of their previous generations having some sort of erroneous or deficit parenting. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've taken us comfortably to the next question, which is, although we see the new generation, we are abundant with resources, we have awareness, we have a lot of technology and access to therapy and everything like that, but
Hmm.
still we see that the parent-child relationship is deteriorating.
Hmm.
Why is
Hmm.
that so?
Hmm. I think I'll just touch upon the foremost element of it and maybe a secondary element there. The foremost element is really nobody today having quality time with each other. And this is not just about parenting. People today, because of their busy lives, don't have quality time for themselves. They don't have quality time for their spouse. They don't have quality time for, and hence to the child also, or to their own parents. So that deficit of quality time is showing up in modern life pretty much everywhere. So the reason of deteriorating mental health for self and deteriorating physical health for self is from there. The excessive challenges in relationships, husband-wife relationships, in families is again there. Deteriorating health of family relationship, the family unit, which about 20, 30 years back still used to have very healthy joint family sort of environment. That deterioration is again from here. And the same thing is extending to parenting. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, dealing with your career, dealing with finances, and then dealing with the traffic of our cities and all the other hula balala that goes around with our modern life, are you really giving sufficient quality time? So I think, Aarti, the biggest and the foremost thing that parents need to think through is, are they ready to commit that time to parenting even before they choose to become parents? It's a very important question. See, uh, bringing a child into this world, continuing your lineage, etc. These are important dharmic goals that need to be there. So, also, bringing a child into this world shapes you so much, it heals you so much, it grows you so much. These are very important things of life to do, and you must do it. But you must do it with preparation. So, just like you won't attend college without going to school, or you won't going to go to a master's without doing your bachelor's, or if you have to get a classy job, you'll make sure that you have good education or good qualification. Like that, when you get into parenting, there is a little bit of preparation to do. Otherwise, that commitment to that quality time won't come. And the other sub aspect of this is, even if you made time, what are you doing in that time? Do you know what is the quality interaction that you need to have? And some of that which we were talking about in the previous question is, can you provide the right strokes? Can you provide the right behavioral anchoring? Can you provide the right traditional and cultural anchoring to the child? Those are some things to look at. But primarily, I would say quality time. That's a big issue. And it's a human concern. It's not just a parenting concern.
Absolutely. Can you tell us more about quality time?
Hmm. So let's take a very simple weekend for sure. Let's say you, for some reason, have your Sunday available and the entire family can use that time. Have you really even structured that time? Let's actually begin with structure, because without structure, nothing can flow. So many times, what could happen is, your friends may be saying, okay, why don't you come for a cricket match in the morning? Or the wife has something to do, the child has something else to do. And suddenly you realize that after a late Sunday morning wake up, or even if you woke up early and you went into these engagements, more than half of the day has sort of gone by. And then when you get back, all of your tired or whatever interactions happen, it's already evening. You decide to do a movie or a family lunch. Time is up. So structuring itself, could you then say, hey, this Sunday, let's all put together some time. and do some quality fun time. Now, what could the quality fun time be? You structure your time to say, hey, we will visit that place, do this picnic, do this movie, etc. And we'll make sure that the entire day we stay together. And let's do it willingly. And let's not make anybody compromise on some commitment that they've given. Like, let's say the child agreed to a play date 2 months back with another child, or there's a teenager who said, I'm going to go to certain concert or music or exhibition, and suddenly the father or the mother say, no, this Sunday I want all of us to do family time. You can't do those things. So structuring. So the first principle of quality time is have a structure. The second principle within that is do something that is enjoyable to everybody, that everybody can find stimuli. So quality stimuli. So within that structure, introduce a quality stimuli that applies to everybody. When that quality stimuli is there, be present. Don't get drifted. Don't suddenly get caught on a phone call or messages, because those will continue in modern age. Put your devices away. Bring attention to it. And at the end of the day, make sure that you have that personal touch. So I'd say if quality time were to be there, so structure first up. Within the structure, taking care of the stimuli. Within the stimuli, taking care of the attention. And within that attention, the personal touch. If one were to do these 4 steps and consider these as a drill down, it then becomes that much powerful. The same thing applies to a couple wanting to improve their family time together, or a team which is trying to do a bonding activity. The same principle. It's a human principle, what you do. You structure yourself, you provide the right stimuli, you have complete attention within that, and you put a professional touch. You'll get beautiful meaning at the end of the day. But in parenting, in a parent-child relationship, there needs to be consistency in this. You'll need to do this over and over and over again, like a family ritual. And that's where the ritual word comes in. Right? So that is how I would look at quality time. Happy to hear if you want to add any nuance to that quality time.
I think this is really helpful. Not only have you told us what to do, but also how to do it. And that's a wonderful direction we all can take. Nothing to add as of now, but this was complete.
Okay.
And so we have also been talking about what can parents do. Along with that comes a lot of myths about parenting. So can we talk about some myths that are preventing us from doing healthy parenting?
I remember you poking me yesterday to see what are the myths. So I wrote a few things down. I think irrespective of everything, one myth that still continues in almost all of parenting is fear is equal to respect. If my child doesn't fear me, my child is not respecting me. Right? So big challenge. And who we were about 30, 40 years back, we had that figure called father sitting on the chair with a cup of tea on a Sunday morning with the newspaper, if they had spectacles like this, or otherwise looking under the newspaper like this, and then children, if they were running around the house, suddenly you would go quiet when those eyes would meet your eyes. That's the notion of the parent, or that exists. And this could be the grandfather or the grandmother or somebody who you used to fear. So, and that fear then would trickle down to discipline. So if you have fear, you have discipline. If you have discipline, then you're productive, etc., etc. That folklore continues. I'd say in today's world, does the child need to have some sense of fear of elders, rules, regulation? Yes, absolutely. It's important in life. Fear is an important quotient in life. Fear keeps you alert. Fear prevents you from doing nonsense in life. Let's just put it like that. So does fear have to be there? Yes, it has to be. But does that equate to respect? Not necessarily. So you have to help the child understand what to fear, what not to. But you also have to help the child understand what is respect and what not. And you have to work hard. Remember, these are not things that will naturally come, because when the child is coming, it's coming with a certain nature. But there is certain nurture and the worldly ways that you have to teach the child. So that's, I think, one myth that remains. The second one, Aarti, I'll refer back to one of your previous questions where we had spoken about the provider versus the connection aspect of things. So in that provider thing, if you remember, I had said we provide and then we also start demanding. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens is many parents would tend to say, I did this for you, I did that for you, da 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 da, but I can't even get something in return from you. So you are literally enforcing guilt on the
Yeah.
child to buy love or to buy adherence, and often these days it is to buy adherence, etc. So guilt is not equal to love, guilt is not equal to adherence. And then if you have fear equated to respect and then you now bring in guilt, then it becomes a very, very explosive myth. So again, I'll repeat that fear is not equal to respect. Please let go of that myth. Guilt is not equal to love and adherence. Don't do that. Similarly, overdoing or overgiving is not connection. So that false heroism, the false investment that happens, the false stimuli, the false indulgence that happens. You are guilty. You haven't gone out with your child. Suddenly you are taking the child out for a vacation and you must stay at a 5-star which is stretching your budget. Is that really what it is? You could have done much more at a wonderful camping site at maybe half the price, make it comfortable, go to a good camping site. But you could have done much more meaningful things. Why are you, does the child even understand the concept of that 5-star? And then suddenly you're going to teach entitlement to the child. So stuff like that. So I would say that that's one large block. The overgiving, overindulgence, over lavishing, over providing is equal to connection, is equal to care, is equal to love. No, that doesn't work like that. You're going to end up teaching the child very wrong habits. So teach the child respect, teach the child love, make the child experience love. The child needs to learn fear separately. Giving has to be regulated. You have to create sufficiency without creating indulgence. That's how you need to work. And these are some myths that need to be worked upon. Any that comes to your mind, you again from your conversations?
Yes. So one I was thinking of is how
Mhm.
parents feel like being friends with
Mm.
their children is the way,
Yeah.
especially when they grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting, know how that one goes. And would you like to share some of the experiences that happen when people try to be too friendly with their children or they become only quote unquote friends? Any anecdotes that you remember?
One I was thinking of how stressful it is for parents to do that, and it does not even work for the children because
Yeah.
it is hard for them to see their parents as friends.
Yeah,
So both of
absolutely. Yeah.
them try too hard, and it still does not
Yeah.
work.
You said it may be hard for the parents, but sometimes it just becomes very easy for the parent to do this because they are literally relegating that whole higher order piece of work of bringing in regulations and all of that stuff to the child. So some of that, yeah. But here is what I would say. See, a parent has to play multiple roles. A parent has to be a discipliner, a guide, a mentor, a corrector, a stimulator, obviously as a friend also, but also be a guru. Maybe sometimes the parent also needs to be a receiver from the child. So you have to play multiple roles with child. If you are going to subjugate all of these things to a revolutionary thought that you have, that let me make my child sort of comfortable with being a friend and all that, then it's going to really backfire at some point in time, because you're going to then ignore some very important aspects of who you need to be and what you need to be with the child to do all of these other roles. So that's something that you need to be careful of. Don't overstimulate the child is something that I said earlier also, and I'll again say this. In today's world, many parents who feel that they were restricted as a child, they tend to do this. They tend to do this overstimuli, etc. Or the other way around, they think that, oh, it's a liberal world, and again driven by a lot of consumerism, because where we have choices, you are trying to give a lot of choices to the child. I think that needs to get contained. Yeah. So that's something that needs to be carefully done. Otherwise, this can create a lot of issues for the child later on. So freedom has to be in moderation. The number of choices has to be in moderation. The indulgence that the child receives has to be in moderation. The friendliness that the child receives has to be in moderation. There is a time and place for all of these things. If it gets exceeded, it's going to teach the child to live without certain boundaries in certain situations, and boundarylessness is a problem. See, remember, and there's this metaphor that's come to my mind. You recognize that a river is a river because you have these two banks of the river, right?
Yes.
And the river flows in that bank. If those banks are removed, what will you call the river?
A sea or something else.
Flood.
Flood.
Think about that, isn't it? When the river breaks its banks, you call it a flood. Yeah, definitely when it merges with the sea, it is boundless, and a sea also can be scary. So when the river becomes a flood or the river becomes the sea, it can be very scary because the power that it unleashes is a very different level of power. Isn't it? So that's something to be very, very cautious about. So teaching the child boundaries cannot happen by you becoming friend to the child. You have to assume all the other responsibilities, or take on and fulfill all the other responsibilities as you do the friendliness also. Feed the child when the child has to be fed. Teach the child when the child has to be taught. Regulate the child when the child has to be regulated. Unleash the child when the child has to be. Give them choices when they really need to choose, and sensible things. And when they don't have sufficient intelligence or ability to choose, then you need to step in. Like at certain ages, helping them understand how to deal with certain emotions and what their response mechanism should be. So an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old needs to be taught that. Understanding how to choose a career, you have to work with the child to give the child a framework. Some of that needs to be thought through. How to spend money, how to earn money. You have to do all of these things, and what not to do, what to stay away from, what is the appropriate age to get into relationships and indulgence or partying, why night outs can be dangerous, and how to learn to recognize signs of anything from threats to possible situations which could lead to abuse. You have to teach the child all of these things. If you're going to think I am going to just be a friend and put in all of these messages, no. The child needs to see you're changing an avatar. Those are the roles that you play. Role playing has its power, because roles come with rules. And every role has a different rule. When you apply those rules, the boundaries get set, limits get set. And those boundaries, those limits are what a child needs to learn, so that it learns the way to manage different things. The other thing is, when you see the parent doing this, the child sees the parent, what the child is also learning is regulation, self-regulation. Remember, every role is a regulation. Because somewhere you are unleashing yourself, somewhere you're tightening up yourself. So all of these are practical lessons of self-regulation for the child.
True. And what do you think about the myth that parents have to be perfect?
So the ultimate cost of perfection is too much. And I don't think any one of us can get to that level of being perfect at anything. It is just a mask that we can assume. Can you pursue excellence? Yes, you can. But while you're pursuing excellence, what are we? We are all vulnerable. We are all fallible. If we are fallible, others can recognize it at some point in time. So the best way to be is human, and a human is fallible. A human is vulnerable. A human is learning. Human should learn and improve. And that's the avatar that children need to see, that their parents are as much human. They have emotions, they have challenges, they make mistakes, they're fallible. They then have the virtues to accept their mistakes and make amends, maintain relationships, work hard at things, bounce back. All of those needs to be there. But if you're going to be consumed by providing the perfect image to the child, where will you have time for all of these things? You won't have time and attention to do it. Masks have a dangerous uh, underlying challenge. They take too much time. Lying is effortful. Lying is effortful. So there's no point of doing that. Be vulnerable, be human. Let the child see. Yes, definitely the child needs to see you learn and improve. For that, it takes effort. So it's only those parents who will show infallible image or a perfectionist image, who are absolutely insecure about some aspect of themselves and parenting or this world. That's the only way you will show that image. And unfortunately, this is also coming from a lot of how do we present ourselves in the real world today. Today's corporate world, society is a lot about presentation of self in that whole social media world, this so-called branding effort, and all branding gurus tell you do this to look like this. Much of that is taken out of whack. Everything has a time and place. Do they need to see perfection in you in something? Let's take an example. You're organizing a family dinner. Do things with perfection there. Come close to perfection. Yeah? Meticulousness, arrangement, attention to detail. Do it beautifully. You're arranging a vacation. Do it. Be meticulous. Be methodical. Go into the detail. Plan everything to the T. And then, like they say, let it loose. Thoda jilla chodo types. So that then brings in a power. So yes, there are places where you could practice perfection, not show perfection, practice perfection. That's where I would see it.
Wow, that was so clear. It made sense, a lot of sense, and it reinforced
Mm, mm.
my belief that yes, you can be vulnerable and still have a very strong grounding for your children.
True that. True that.
Right. So we've understood in our conversation that fear does not help, guilt does
Mm,
not help,
mm,
control
mm,
also does not
mm,
help. So
mm,
what actually does help, and what are the real ingredients of
mm,
having a
mm,
wonderful bond, parent-child bond?
mm. So I would put this into two aspects. The child needs two very broad aspects. And again, this relates to, one of the things that we said earlier, that what is that relationship? It is about positive strokes. It's about teaching the child the age appropriate and the society appropriate behaviors to be likable and to succeed. And then third, to teach you the goals and traditions, etc. So ultimately, what is the formula there? The formula then for the parent is to really look at humanistic values and to look at values related to performing in this world, because we are living in a material world which has a very ruthless side to it. So on the humanistic side, the child definitely needs to see you, as Patanjali Yoga Sutras would say, doing swadhyay, ishwar pranidhan, etc., which means what? Self-study, understanding the scriptures, culture, etc., trying to work through and create a powerful identity for your own self, believing in God, surrendering to nature, the powers of nature, while doing your karma yoga, making an effort, coming back. So all of that, um, uh, and then those can also be, as we would say in psychology, values like compassion, practicing boundaries, keeping respect, learning how to repair things if you have done some damage, etc. Staying connected with others. Much of that on the humanistic side. Again, when you do self study and Ishwar Pranidhan, etc., while doing karma yoga, then there are some um, materialistic and worldly factors that you are focusing on, like uh, purposeful achievement, curiosity, and then, you know, building on things, excellence, financial intelligence, prudence in making choices, especially when it comes to material choices in life. These are things that the child needs to obviously learn. So that's what the parent needs to obviously balance through their approach, and this can only be done um, by that connection, essentially,
Hmm.
because it's one thing to tell the child verbally or non-verbally. It's another to be, like you had chosen that word, role model for the child. That's where I would leave it.
I still have that question in mind, that what is
Hmm.
the real ingredient of this connection?
Love,
Hmm.
for sure. Respect, for sure. And I would leave it at that. The rest of it can come as it comes, but at the core of this, I would say this. And the third thing, if I were to package this, and it's not an ingredient, it's a vessel, it's a process, it's consistency.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's how I would see this. And I think you're true to your spirit of application in going back to that question and examining. Yes, all the other things that I said previously, it would be mechanical and meaningless if there is no love in it, if there is no respect in it, if there is no consistency really in it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. So, we've been talking about what all is important in a parent-child
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, but there are some people who feel they've already lost their connection with
huh,
their
yeah,
child.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what can parents do? And is it ever
Hmm.
really too late to build this connection?
I think when it comes to the parent-child relationship, unless ego, or as we say, ankara, has taken over, I think it's never too late. Never, never too late. Even if there are external forces which have done damage, even if there is somebody brainwashing you or really being a barrier, I don't think it is ever too late. Um, so going back to, I think you had asked a very beautiful question about quality time. And there I had said, structure is very important, stimuli is very important, presence is very important, personal touch is very important. So I'll go back to that point of presence. So it's never too late. Make the presence felt and personalize that presence.
Um,
You need to remember that for as long as you are there in this world physically, if you are a parent, you should continue to be like a trustee to the child, not the owner of the child, not the owner of the child's journey, but the trustee to that child's journey. If that happens, then you can repair that relationship. Yes, apologies, making up, all of those things are required. But I think the first and foremost is to accept that there has been damage that's done and make that presence felt, and then take the age appropriate action. Now, if you're trying to do this with a teenager, there'll be different set of actions. And obviously that's a deeper subject of conversation and you might need help with that. So I also encourage at this point in time that the professionals who are in the child psychology space, they can be wonderful people to reach out to if you need help. There are fortunately today a lot of good literature which is available there. Some of that, I think I have spoken several times on my own channel on some of these subjects of how do you correct your actions and behaviors. So much of that help is available. That's what I would say, Aarti, needs to be done. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That gives us a lot of hope to know that there is
There is, there
always
is, there
scope.
is always hope. There is always hope.
Yeah. And I
And not,
also,
Mhm.
yes, please.
No, I was only saying when you said hope, the word scope also came up. So there's always hope. There is always scope in that
Hope.
child-parent relationship. Yeah, both of that.
Mm. And while you were talking, I also remembered, and something that I would like to highlight, which was the
Hmm.
willingness. When you
Hmm.
spoke about
Hmm.
quality time, the willingness
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
repair it, the willingness to connect again. And
Hmm.
my teacher said this sentence in Marathi, and she said that तुम्ही as parents मुलांचे पालक आहात,
Hmm.
मालक नाही. So you're not the owners.
Mm.
but you're the custodians, as you say
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah,
As long as we
yeah.
remember that, as long as we have the
True.
willingness and everything you
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
it is repairable. There is hope. There is scope.
yeah. And I guess that's where, the gardener's metaphor sort of comes in. The parent is pretty much the gardener, and the gardener does their best, and the tree just turns out to be what it turns out to be. And at the end of the day, the flowers are enjoyed by somebody else, the fragrance is enjoyed by somebody else, the fruits are enjoyed by somebody else. Some of that, yes, absolutely. So might as well put in all you have and do a mighty good job of what you can make of the tree, because then the rest of the role will be the soil and the air and the wind and the seasons and all of that. Yes, absolutely, spot on.
And which is provided by God only.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll take that lovely Marathi phrase away. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And thank you to my teachers. Uh, so, anything else you would like to add? Or otherwise, I would like to end with one question you would like
Mm-hmm.
to ask our
Mm-hmm.
parents, something they would ask themselves every day. So they are
Mm-hmm.
on this
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Makes sense. I think nothing more to add. Let's just sort of leave this as a food for thought, and we'll keep coming back and talk more about certain other aspects after we have received some reactions to this podcast. Um, Yes. So if we can summarize all of this thing into one question, then whatever we have spoken about is largely about the parent being able to see who their child really is, making them
Mhm.
experience that love there, and ensuring that the child feels safe. So the question then essentially for parents to ask every day is, today, did my child feel seen, safe, and loved by me? The alternate of that question is, if you're planning today, how can I make my child feel seen, uh, safe, and loved by me? Just keep asking that question. Amongst couples, you again keep asking that question. Together, how can we make the child feel seen, safe, and loved by us? In the family, also, it's the larger question. And if many times people say, how do I regulate uh, my in-laws or relatives, etc. I think the question and the theme has to be this: whatever we do collectively as parents, as the village, so as the village is raising the child, and even this is an important question for teachers and schools to ask: are we seeing the child, making the child feel safe, and making the child feel loved? The rest of it is basically the role playing that I was talking about, the steps that you have to follow in following through and play the various roles and the dharmas of how you teach and groom the child. That's what it is. That's my question that I'd leave for the parents.
Thank you so much, Dada, for that question. And we'll keep asking it every day.
Thank you. And thank you, Aarti, for compiling all the questions and the reactions that you have, and also talking to some of the parents who've been showing eagerness to feed into our podcast series. You've been a great help. Let's keep going back and bringing back more of this messaging as
Yes.
reactions come to us. Look forward. And thank you, parents, for listening in to us. Hope you have enjoyed our conversation. It's taken quite a lot of effort for Aarti to connect with many of you and also compile all these questions. Keep sending your reactions our way so that we can have some of these live interactions brought to you where your questions are answered, your problems are addressed. I'll see you soon. Till then, happy parenting. Take care of yourself and of your children.